The Adams Archive
says this post is an overview of the blackmail tactics used to control the most influential people in governments around the world. Obviously, I cannot cover everything in a single post, so as with my previous posts, I highly encourage you to research further yourself. All sources and links are at the bottom of the post. An understanding of what trauma-based mind control programming, MKUltra/Monarch, is and how it works is again necessary to understand much of this. My other posts are here. The world is run on blackmail, mind control, and shame. There exist many collections of videotapes of high-up people engaging in some of the worst, sickest things imaginable. Now, to preempt this, I'm not condoning that all of this is true. I'm simply reading you something that I found online. But there seems to be a lot of evidence, and there seems to be a lot of people who agree with this position. So here's some of the information that people believe. Drugs, torture, pedophilia, and murder are common themes to these videos. These tapes are in the hands of many different people, groups, and especially intelligence agencies. Honey trap operations are constantly being run to gather compromising and incriminating evidence on people of importance. Child slaves will be used to compromise people on video. Global leaders are often covertly videotaped doing perverted things with slaves, sent to them by intelligence agencies, the Illuminati, or other groups. And this is then leveraged. One of the most repulsive things possible that you can do is many times filmed to ensure future compliance. Then he goes on, or she goes on in this to quote many people discussing these things, whether they were CIA assets, intelligence agencies that they worked for, or others, XMI6, and then he actually, or she actually names these people. But I don't want to get too into the weeds on these, but I'll read you a couple, and hopefully the most important ones are at the top. This is back in 1966. Let's see if this is where we want to start. Back in 1966, Rothstein became the first police detective assigned to investigate the prostitution industry. Almost immediately, he discovered an underground sexual blackmail operation that compromised politicians with child prostitutes. Human compromise is what he was labeled the honey trap process. Rothstein and his colleagues found that approximately 70% of the top U.S. government leaders were compromised in this way. Rothstein said the CIA conducted the human compromise operation, while the FBI was tasked with covering up any leaks. Wow. It says Fiona Barnett. Let's see if we can get who that actually is for you guys. Fiona Barnett. She's in a documentary called Candy Girl. Let's see if we can watch a couple minutes of that. Let's get some context.
Extraordinary claims coming out of Canberra tonight, with a former Prime Minister allegedly on a list of suspected pedophiles. Liberal Senator Bill Heffernan, who is pushing for the Child Abuse Royal Commission to include the legal profession, told an explosive Senate hearing he has a police list of 28 prominent suspects.
There's a former Prime Minister on this list, and it is a police document.
And now I'd like to introduce to you Fiona Barnett, that's Barnett, who is one of the bravest people you will ever have the privilege to meet.
Throughout my childhood, I was a victim of Australia's VIP child sex trafficking ring. For example, I was prostituted to pedophile parties at Parliament House, Canberra, and to an international leader at Fairbairn Military Airport. The people involved in this elite pedophile ring included high-ranking politicians, police and judiciary. From the late 1980s, I reported my abuse experiences to multiple healthcare professionals, not one of whom adhered to mandatory reporting requirements. I reported to New South Wales Police in 2008. I reported to the Royal Commission in 2012. I reported to Operation Attest in Canberra. I made formal witness statements to New South Wales Police and have agreed to do more. I've reported directly to the New South Wales and Federal Police Commissioners and to the New South Wales Coroner. I have provided sufficient names, times, dates and places for authorities to investigate. My experiences were horrific beyond words. I witnessed child abduction, torture, rape, murder. But the way I've been treated for reporting the crimes I witnessed and experienced has been far worse than my original abuse experiences. Victims endure the most miserable childhoods. We then spend the rest of our lives paying for the crimes committed against us. Victims are constantly placed under excessive scrutiny. If we can't provide a precise time and date for something that happened 40 years ago, we are called liars. If we get emotional, we're labelled crazy. If we are vocal, we're just attention seekers. It's time to focus our attention away from victims and onto those responsible for the crimes against children. In the 2006 census, Australians identified child protection as their number one concern. Why then does our government continue to ignore the public's concern for children? Australia is a pedophile haven. Our laws are written, interpreted and administered in a way that benefits pedophiles and silences victims of crime. Teach pro-pedophilia material. Our health boards...
Now, the man that she accused of being one of her abusers was Nicole Kidman's dad, who eventually fled to Singapore as a result of these accusations and was mysteriously dead. So that's an interesting piece of the puzzle that I just read. Wow. Crazy. I believe she wrote something called Eyes Wide. No, that's not her. Okay. Random book. So there's a big rabbit hole there with her. Just her, you know. Justice Scalia was mentioned under her name several times, several different things. So just to show you that there's validity and merit to the person that he is quoting here in just one of these subsections. So I didn't have any research on her or any of this prior to that. So, but just Googling that name, you can find validity to it. And here we go, and we'll read some of the next parts of this here. But let's read what she had to say about that. And maybe I'll give a couple more reads of this. She said, one of the things that I found out over the last 10 years of studying governments and listening to intelligence and counterintelligence agencies is that those in government are sexually compromised and their sexual secrets are collected. And then they are promoted into governments and into judiciaries and into all the positions of importance. Pedophilia is the preferred dirt as it is easily photographed, easily presented in a range of media, immensely shameful, and the public demands your resignation. The next person quoted here is Greg Hallett. Paul Bonacci, one of the victim witnesses of the Franklin affair, also clearly stated Larry King used him in blackmail operations in New York and Washington. The latter was in connection with the activities of a close associate of Larry King, Craig Spence, who was involved in a prostitution ring consisting of underage boys that were supplied to Washington's upper class, which went right up to the White House. Greg Hallett also said, Bob Hope was politically connected and knew how to lure people in and ensure that they would work for him. He invited them to his parties and dangled various kinds of illegal and immoral perversions in their faces. Once their perversions were uncovered, he could blackmail or control them. That is how Bob worked. Bob was very good at this. I watched him do it to people over and over. He lured them in, detected their weaknesses, then used that knowledge in his favor, for his connections, and ultimately for his personal gain. Bryce Taylor goes on to say, these blackmail practices are often used in conjunction with trauma-based mind control. This mind control is an integral component of and is deeply intertwined with child trafficking, sex slavery, satanic ritual abuse, and many other horrific crimes. Many of the children used for the blackmail are programmed, and many of these people being blackmailed, including sometimes future politicians, leaders, and presidents, are also programmed themselves. It says, my personal belief, based on my experiences, is that over the years, more leaders were under mind control. So what this is saying is that there's documented evidence, consistently that there is being used blackmail and mind control techniques against high-level politicians so that they can be manipulated for profit over time. Let's see if there's any of the other ones that we want to mention here, because there's a ton. There's one from the Pegasus file. I'll read this one and the next one, and then we'll move on. It says, check out for the FBI records on Scarlett. What was his original hook that got him so deeply embedded with the UK Illuminati culture? He murdered the nanny of Lord Lucan in the 1970s. Lucan wasn't actually involved. Scarlett got it wrong. He was under mind control at the time. How we laughed on his training sessions when he heard that one. Not funny, really. We were all in the same boat. Each had something terrible attached to us in our past. That's all part and parcel of the Illuminati contract. Young people forced under mind control to commit murder when young, and then later on picked up by British intelligence to be used and abused as they wished, as loyal servants to the British crown. One can only hope that by exposing these hooks, that some sort of amnesty can prevail if these people are freed from their demonic Illuminati contract by exposing their hooks. One can only hope that they will come forward at a sizable and influential body of political and public figures in order to put to an end. Here's hoping. Check it out, Remington's Hook, to see what sort of mind ran M15 for so long, or MI5 for so long. It's a game called Mafia, and it is all about blackmail. This is from an ex-MI6 agent. It says he had previously signed off on Epstein's sweetheart deal because Epstein had belonged to intelligence. Acosta, then serving as U.S. Attorney to Southern Florida, had also been told by unspecific figures at the time that he needed to give Epstein a lenient sentence because of his links to intelligence. Wow. Now, that same Fiona Barnett mentions Satanism quite a bit in some of her talks here. But this just goes on and on and on and on of other documented conversations about this blackmail and mind control process. Now, if you don't know about MK Ultra, you need to go back. I did a full episode on it and broke it all down. I think I've done actually 2 episodes on MK Ultra, which is a CIA operation, which was done. There's over like 100 and something different ways that they were conducting different scientific experiments during the Cold War and beyond to try and figure out how to conduct mind control on people. And it was like almost between, I don't remember exactly, but it was like almost 35 to 40 years that they were conducting these type of experiments. And it's all public knowledge. You can actually go to the CIA.gov website, to the archives, and look up the documents on MK Ultra to figure out. And now you know how they're actually using it. So let's read the next part of this. If you want to find this article, I will link it in a Substack email that I will send out tomorrow. So austinadams.substack.com, I will link this conspiracy Reddit article, which is not very much traction. I wonder why, but has tons and tons of receipts of legitimate people who have made legitimate claims over time that is well documented about this blackmail process.